Welcome back to another episode of Flagrant Foul Fridays. I'm your host, Nick, and with me today is always Christian.
Hello.
Who's ready for some March Madness?
Uh, I am.
Well, you're in luck because we're going to talk about it today. Uh, so, today, our special
No,
segment. What?
before you move on, I walked into my nutrition class today, and the professor hands everyone a March Madness bracket, and he says the winner gets their name on the giant board outside in the hallway. And I was surprised how many people wanted to do it.
You should ask him if you can put triple F on there instead of your name.
But yeah, continue.
So today, our special segment, we're going to talk about our March Madness brackets, and Christian's going to edit that in for you guys so you guys can kind of follow along and see.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, he can
It
get it in
shouldn't be
there.
hard, but I don't want to make promises.
And then, following the trend over the past couple of weeks, we got some trade news and some signing news and some more interesting things coming about the NBA and some fun things to talk about in miscellaneous. So you want me to go first on the
I
bracket,
mean,
or
your
you to go?
bracket's above mine, even though I put mine first. So obviously that means you want to go
That's just
first
how
too.
that's just how it uploaded. I didn't mean to have it on top.
No, you're good. Yeah, we could do each of our like,
Like go back and forth on our picks.
yeah, like we could do east, south, or like east and then I do east, etc.
All right. So for the top of the bracket, the 1 versus 16 seed, Duke versus Siena, I chose Duke. Ohio State versus TCU, I took Ohio State.
I was like, what?
For St. John's versus Northern Iowa, I took St. John's. Kansas over CA Baptiste. I took South Florida over Louisville. I almost took Louisville, but I chose to go with South Florida. Michigan State over North Dakota State. UCLA over UCF. And UConn over Furman.
Yeah, so for me, I took Duke over Siena. That was a pretty easy choice for me. Uh, Ohio State versus TCU. I briefly looked up their like records and stuff, and I believe that Ohio State can get it done, even though I know they like to blow it in the play or in the tournament sometimes. And St. John's versus Northern Iowa was a pretty easy choice for me before I even knew how good St. John's was. Uh, Kansas over CA Baptist. I took Kansas. Did I say that I took St. John's? I don't know. Anyways, Louisville versus South Florida. This is the first upset that I predicted before it came out about Louisville's player not playing for them, which we will talk about later. So, maybe I just have that future sight already, Nick. I don't know. Are you worried?
What?
Are you worried?
Oh, no, not really, because I took South Florida too.
Well, that's fair. But hey, the rest of mine, that could be a good sign for me. Anyways, Michigan State versus North Dakota State, I took Michigan State. UCLA versus UCF, I took UCLA, even though they're the 7th seed, and so they're not really at the peak of UCLA basketball like they were in the 50s or whatever. I still feel like they're going to get the job done. And then UConn versus Furman, I took UConn. Pretty easy decision for me there.
Yeah, so we pretty much had a same throughout the first round in the East.
Well, we did have exactly the same, didn't we?
Yeah, we had exactly the same. I don't know why I said pretty much the same.
All right, now we're going down to the south.
All right, so in the first round of the South, I had Florida taking the game over the 16 seed. I don't remember who won that game. And then I have Iowa over Clemson. So not a big upset, but still an upset nonetheless. I took Vanderbilt over McNeese. I took Nebraska over Troy, which will be Nebraska's first tournament win.
Yeah.
Uh, I'd have VCU upsetting North Carolina.
Wow.
I took Illinois over Penn. I have Texas A&M upsetting St. Mary's, and Houston beating Idaho.
All right, so we actually do differ here a little bit. For me, I took Florida over the 16 seed like you did. I also took Iowa over Clemson, but I took McNeese over Vanderbilt. I know that McNeese is one of those teams that can kind of be sneakily good, unless I'm thinking of a different team. And I also just don't think of Vanderbilt as a basketball school. Even if they're good, I don't care. I didn't know about that Nebraska thing, but I did see that later after I made my bracket. In fact, I saw a lot of things that made me question some of the choices I made, but I'm gonna stick with it because I've learned from the past, if you think about it too much, you tend to do bad. Anyways, then I took North Carolina winning over VCU. I'd got Illinois beating Penn, St. Mary's beating Texas A&M, and then Houston beating Idaho. So I believe our only difference there was the Vanderbilt and North Carolina picks.
Did you take Texas A&M too?
No, I took St. Mary's. I thought you said St. Mary's, didn't you?
No, I took Texas A&M.
Okay, so we have three differences.
So over in the West, I took Arizona over Long Island. I took Utah State over Villanova. So once again, not a big upset, but still there. And then I took Wisconsin over High Point. I saw some people took High Point over Wisconsin, but I don't see it. Arkansas over Hawaii, BYU over Texas. I took Gonzaga over Kennesaw State. I have Missouri upsetting Miami and Purdue over Queens.
For me, I got Arizona over Long Island. Pretty easy decision for me there. I got Villanova over Utah State. Uh, I don't think Villanova's gonna be in their like uh top tier form as they have been in the past, but I do think they're gonna get the job done against Utah State. I got Wisconsin over High Point. And then I have a pick that to this day, I don't know why I picked it. I just kind of have a feeling that Hawaii is going to upset Arkansas. And then next, I got Texas upsetting BYU. And then I got Gonzaga winning over Kennesaw State, although Kennesaw State does scare me a bit. And then I got Miami beating Missouri and then Purdue beating Queens. Purdue likes to lose early, so I am a little worried about the Queens upset, but I don't know.
I think that's our most differences in one side of the bracket so far.
Probably, because this is where I actually started to do upsets. Also, I looked it up earlier, like how many teams that win their conference championship also win the March Madness tournament, and it's like in the last 10 years at least, it's only like 10% of teams. So that alleviates some of my concerns about having some of these good teams being upset, especially things like how UConn got beat by St. John's, you know. So,
Yeah.
but I think St. John's have beat them actually twice this year,
Yeah, St. John's beat UConn twice and then lost to them once.
and somehow they're the fifth seed. All right, moving on to the Midwest. I have a feeling we're going to be pretty similar here.
In the Midwest, I took Michigan over Howard. And I took St. Louis over Georgia because you can't be doubting uh, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar there. And I took Texas Tech over Akron. I took Alabama over Hofstra.
Which I'm a little worried about that one.
Yeah, especially with their player being gone. So I have them going out in the next round, but I got them for this round. I took Miami, Ohio over Tennessee. I think they can get one win in this tournament.
Really? Even though they've had like the easiest strength of schedule almost in like the history of the game?
I think they could pull off and get one win.
That's crazy. Okay.
I took Virginia over Wright State, and I took Santa Clara over Kentucky. So that's another upset. And then I took Iowa State over Tennessee State.
So I took Michigan also, and then I also took St. Louis. Maybe it's something about SEC teams that just make me think they're not basketball teams. Even if they're the higher seed, I don't think I'm ever going to pick them. And then I got Texas Tech beating Akron. I got Alabama over Hofstra, although I am a little worried with that player being gone. And then I got Tennessee over Miami, Ohio. I don't really see Tennessee as a good team, but I don't think Miami's better than them. I got Virginia over Wright State. I also picked Santa Clara over Kentucky, which I actually don't remember doing this. When I saw this, I was like, why would I ever say they were going to beat Kentucky? Like, Kentucky is consistently one of the best teams. But I'm just going to go with it. I think it's one of those gut feelings you just got to ride out. And honestly, them being the seventh seed makes it feel a lot more likely to me. If they were like the one seed Kentucky, then, probably not going to happen. And then lastly, I got Iowa State beating Tennessee State. So we had a few differences, but for the most part, we actually had pretty much the same upsets, weirdly.
I think the only difference there was Miami, Ohio.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into the next round, I want to say how I picked my teams. I looked at their last or their top 10 games or whatever of the season, and I looked at who they played, who they beat, how close their games were if they had common opponents. And then if they didn't, I looked at their points per game and their points allowed per game. So I kind of did a little bit of research, but not too much because I haven't watched any college basketball except for a couple Ohio State games.
This is really a duality then, because I kind of took the method of as little research as possible with the occasional, like, overall record search for, like, maybe four teams total.
Well, the reason I looked at their schedule is because there's a team on here that beat Duke,
Sure.
but they're lower seed or they're a higher seed than a team that literally played like Division II colleges.
No, I get it. I mean, in past years, I've done a lot more research than I have this year, and I did bad. So, I don't know. I do hope that whoever wins this between us is somewhat reflected in the fact that one of us did more research than the other.
Yeah, it'll prove if research is worth it or not.
Because I was talking to one of my buddies earlier, and he's actually played basketball at the college level. And he said, like, he's known so many people that don't know anything about basketball that always beat his brackets because they just kind of guess.
Back up to the top of the East now.
Yep.
So obviously, I got to take Duke over Ohio State, sadly. I don't think Ohio State's going to win more than one game in the tournament. And
They
honestly, it's
kind of
just
got a rough seeding.
yeah, I was going to say they kind of got unlucky. Um, but
Honestly, though, they deserved it. They played very bad at times during this season.
and then I have St. John's over Kansas. And then I have Michigan State over South Florida, obviously, because I don't see South Florida winning another game outside of Louisville. And I have UConn over UCLA.
So for me, I got Duke over Ohio State, pretty much the same reasons you had. I have Kansas over St. John's, although if I knew what I know about St. John's now, this would have been a lot harder of a decision for me. But I think I just gotta stick with my guns here and just go with what historically has been good. So for that reason, I'm gonna have to go Kansas over St. John's. Although, honestly, if St. John's makes it a deep run, I'm gonna be rooting for them, even if it messes up my bracket. Then I agree with you. I think Michigan State's also going to beat South Florida. And then I got UConn beating UCLA.
All right, back down to the South. I have Florida over Iowa because Florida's a dominant team. I don't see Iowa getting another win. I got Vanderbilt over Nebraska, so Vanderbilt getting 2 wins, even though you didn't see Vanderbilt winning any.
This could be a big point swing for us.
I got Illinois beating VCU, and then I got Houston beating Texas A&M.
I got Florida also beating Iowa. I got Nebraska beating McNeese. I got North Carolina beating Illinois, which it was hard for me to do that, but I just have a feeling that North Carolina is gonna lock in a little bit, just a little bit. I don't think they're gonna look like the favorites to win it by this at this point in the tournament, but I think they will get the win over Illinois. And then I got Houston beating St. Mary's.
Up at the top of the West, I took Arizona over Utah, and then I took Arkansas over Wisconsin. I really wanted to take Wisconsin, but Arkansas playing in the SEC kind of did it. Plus, I saw a lot of people taking High Point over Wisconsin in the first round, so I was like, well, maybe they aren't going to do so good, so I took Arkansas. And then I have BYU upsetting Gonzaga in the second round, and I have Purdue beating Missouri in the second round as well.
I got Arizona beating Villanova, Wisconsin beating Hawaii, Gonzaga beating Texas, and then Miami beating Purdue.
So we only have one team that's the same that's moving on in the West.
Yeah. Also, not to get ahead of myself, but my top 8 picks, I must have been like out of my mind or something because as we will find out, I have the number 1 seed and number 2 seeds getting upset by a 6 and a 5 seed. I don't remember doing that. And you know, it's funny, I could still change it technically because the games haven't started, but I'm not going to.
He's loyal to his bracket.
Yeah, I'm loyal. All right, now we got the Midwest.
I got Michigan beating St. Louis, uh, ruining their Cinderella run, but it is what it is.
This is a
Even
really good
though,
Michigan team.
yeah, I'd really like to see St. Louis make a Cinderella run, but really they got put in a bad spot to make that happen.
I don't know if either of us have like a major Cinderella run.
Uh, I'd say probably BYU at the best for my brackets, but they only made it to the third round. So I got Texas Tech and Alabama. I got Texas Tech over Alabama, so another slight upset, but not a very big one. Virginia over Miami, Ohio. Like I said, I don't see them winning more than one game if they do win. And Iowa State over Santa Clara.
For me, I got Michigan also beating St. Louis. I got Texas Tech beating Alabama. That was before I found out about Alabama's player being gone. And then I got Virginia beating Tennessee and Iowa State beating Santa Clara. So there we actually have different teams but the same results. All right, top 8, let's go to the East.
So I got Duke versus St. John's. I really want to take St. John's over Duke here, but Duke has been such a dominant team with Cam Boozer and all those other guys on the team. And then Michigan State, I have them not a big upset. It's a 3-2, but I got Michigan State upsetting UConn.
I got Duke beating Kansas. Um, Pretty much the same reasons like you said they're a good team. And then I got UConn beating Michigan State. I really think UConn, although they kind of struggled in their tournament or their conference tournament, I think based on what we learned last week on the historic teams, it just seems like it would fit perfectly on that Wikipedia article because UConn has won pretty consistently the last like what 5 years or so. It seems like just something that could happen, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of on the bridge, but like I said, I looked at schedules and stuff and saw that Michigan State had some bigger wins and saw UConn lost to St. John's twice. So down in the South, way down in the South, I took Florida over Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt's Cinderella run, if you want to call it, they're only the 5 seed. Vanderbilt is going down to Florida. And then I have Illinois beating Houston, so another semi upset, even though it's a 3-2.
Yeah. I got Florida beating Nebraska. I don't know how Nebraska counts as a South team though. But whatever. And then I got North Carolina upsetting Houston, which I don't really remember doing that, but I'm just gonna stick it out. Like I said, I do think Houston, from what I've heard, is probably a really good team this year, though. So I would not be surprised if North Carolina does not beat them or even make it this far, to be honest.
Over in the West, I took Arizona over Arkansas, and then Purdue taking out BYU.
Again, I don't know why I picked this, looking back, but I took Wisconsin over Arizona, which is absurd that the 1 seed is gonna lose. But anyways, and then I got Gonzaga beating Miami.
In the Midwest, I took Michigan over Texas Tech, ruining their run, and then I took Iowa State over Virginia.
And I did the same thing.
So we're pretty much the exact same in the Midwest.
For some reason, we really agree on the Midwest part.
And then going into the Final Four, In the Elite Eight round, I took Duke over Michigan State. I took Florida over Illinois, Arizona over Purdue, and Michigan over Iowa State.
For me, I did UConn over Duke, Gonzaga over Wisconsin, Florida over North Carolina, and Michigan over Iowa State. So my final four is 2 seed UConn and number 1 seed Florida versus, or, and then 3 seed Gonzaga and number 1 seed Michigan. That's my final four. What's your final four?
So my final four is number one seed Duke, and number one seed Florida, and number one seed Arizona, and number one seed Michigan. And I did not mean to do that, but based off of the research, those are the teams that were going to go to the Final Four if they were able to stay consistent.
It's almost like the 1 seeds are good teams.
Yeah,
You know, it's funny though. As maybe stupid as that pick is, you might actually win just because you're gonna get so many points from one of those 1 seeds making it this far.
yeah.
Yeah, so I got UConn beating Florida and Michigan beating Gonzaga.
And I took Duke over Florida and Arizona over Michigan.
And then I got UConn beating Michigan in the championship with a tiebreaker of 139 total points.
I took Arizona over Duke with a tiebreaker of 157 total points.
Nice. Well, I'm excited to see who will win. My guess is one of our final four teams is going to probably push one of us over the edge for the victory. And then my second guess is that the Midwest is going to play out way differently than both of us thought it would. That's my guess. I find it too coincidental that we both agree on the Midwest for the most part. I feel like we're going to see a huge upset at some point.
Yeah, I think so too. But if you guys don't remember, we have a challenge on for this tournament. So once this bracket is over, there will be somebody posting a video of themselves doing a script.
An apology video with the script written by the other person.
I already got the script written for if I win.
You actually do?
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. For me, I'm gonna make my script a mixture of what actually happened that caused you to lose. So, for example, you might say something like, I overestimated Arizona's ability to wear sunscreen because they live in the desert. I don't know. And then I'm gonna do,
If I lose by 5 points, you'll be like, if only you didn't take Miami, Ohio.
yeah, stuff like that. And then I'm gonna mix in probably just some stuff to make you look bad.
But what if we tie?
Well, we have a tiebreaker. Or
Oh,
does that
because of
not
the total
matter?
points. I don't know if that matters if neither team's playing.
Okay. I think if we have a tie, we we do 1v1 basketball because I'll be home in like 2 weeks for spring break, and then the winner gets to do, or the loser of the 1v1 basketball game.
Well, when will
Ha
you be home? Because the national championship game is April 6th.
um, we should know by then though,
Yeah.
if a tie is even a possibility. And if it is, then we will do a preemptive 1v1 basketball game. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Let's move on to the March Madness segment, which is new as of this week and temporary.
Yeah, only for about two or
A
three
month.
weeks.
Yeah, not quite a month. They lied about the name.
Yeah, it ends in April, but it's March Madness.
Yeah. Anyways, so we found out that the only coach to win a conference tournament with 5 different schools in college basketball history was Rick Pitino. He won with Boston, Kentucky, Louisville, Iona, and St. John's. And he's currently with St. John's, right?
Yeah, he's with St. John's right now.
So definitely a coach that probably doesn't get as much recognition as he should. I don't know if he has any tournament wins though. Did he get one with Kentucky?
I assume so. I'll look it up real quick. He is 55-22 in the NCAA tournament.
But has he won it?
He has two national championships: 1996 Kentucky and 2013 Louisville.
Oh, well, that's the two teams I would have thought.
And the 2013 Louisville one was the one that got revoked.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
pretty
that's the
sure,
one that got
wasn't it?
revoked. Which, did you ever look up why it got revoked?
I think I did, and it was like really weird.
Yeah, it was insane. I don't I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think it had something to do with like hiring women for the players. And I'll leave it at that. So it wasn't like they cheated, it was well actually I think they said they used it as ways to like recruit people or something.
A sex
Uh
scandal.
yeah, kind of crazy. I'm gonna guess he probably wasn't involved in that. I hope. I don't know why he would still be coaching or allowed to
It
coach.
was the. I just looked it up. It was the former director of basketball operations.
Yeah, there we go.
So not Rick Pitino. So don't blame it on him. So I want to talk about our conference champions since that just happened, and now we're in the tournament. So ACC, Duke won, and then Purdue won the Big Ten. Arizona won the Big 12. St. John's won the Big East. Arkansas won the SEC. South Florida won the American. Queens University won ASUN. High Point won the Big South. Northern Iowa won the Missouri Valley. LIU Sharks won the Northeast Conference. North Dakota State won the Summit League. Troy won the Sun Belt, and Idaho won the Big Sky.
Who did Purdue play in the championship game?
Michigan, I believe.
You know, if that thing I looked up is accurate, then your prediction of Arizona winning is very unlikely because the teams that win their conference championships games don't tend to win the overall championship.
Yeah, so you have a chance with
To be
UConn.
fair, that is a very small selection. Like, there's a lot of teams outside of the conference championship, so in a sense, it's more likely that they win, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, there's a higher percentage of non-conference champions.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I meant. Oh yeah, well that's it for that segment. We're gonna have more obviously next week when there's actually games. And now we're gonna move on to the ball and order segment. Once again, we only have one crime that we know of. So, Alabama star Aiden Holloway was arrested Monday, 4 days before the Alabama tournament run starts for basketball. And he's facing two felony drug charges. Police said that Holloway will be charged with first-degree possession of marijuana not for personal use, which is a Class C felony, and a failure to affix a tax stamp, which is also a felony. His bond was set at $5,000 and he was released from jail at 10:45 a.m. local time. Holloway, the number 2 scorer for the team, will be off the team until he goes through the school's investigation process, which is conducted outside of the athletic department through the UA Office of Student Conduct. Although I think I heard that he might be fully like expelled or something like that. I'm not sure. It might be like a temporary. I don't know. Anyways, he's one of the best three-point shooters in the country, making nearly 44% on 6 attempts per game, and he scored 20 or more points on 10 occasions this season. So that could be a really big loss for them. One thing that I was curious about was what a tax stamp thing, or failure to affix a tax stamp was, and why it was a felony. Did you look this up, Nick?
So failure to
I did look this up.
affix
I'm just
a
asking
text.
because I wondered.
Oh, if you want to explain it, go ahead.
So essentially, in the state of Alabama, I don't know, in whatever, was it in Alabama? I thought it was in Georgia.
Yeah, it happened in Alabama.
Oh, okay. So I guess in Alabama, there's a law that says if you buy or if you are selling drugs, even if they are illegal, you have to buy a tax stamp and apply it to the drugs. So a lot of people, from my understanding, are not a huge fan of this because it's essentially like a gotcha law where it's like you're not gonna buy a tax stamp for your illegal drugs because it would be admitting guilt. But because you didn't, they can charge you with an extra thing, which then in turn gives the, I guess, police more money and funding and stuff like that. I I I like the idea of making the punishment severe enough to make people not want to do it, but I'll be honest, I don't think a lot of people will probably know about this rule, so to me it just sounds like an added felony charge that shouldn't be a thing. I don't know, what do you think about it?
Well, that makes sense why it was non-used, not for personal use marijuana.
Yeah, I did hear that it was like a pretty large quantity, possibly, that he was probably going to sell, presumably.
I saw that it was only about a pound of marijuana and
Oh, really?
I forget the other
Well,
drug, but
a pound might be a decent amount, right? Because it's kind of light, I would assume.
mhm.
But yeah, what's your thoughts on the tax stamp felony?
um, well, I personally don't try to sell drugs, nor do I take them. So, I mean, it doesn't affect me, but so can they get in trouble if they bought the tax stamp?
Yeah, that actually I'm not sure. But my assumption is, from what I read, is that you get the tax stamp from some sort of official government building. So my guess is you actually would get reported to the police.
So
So
it's kind of a lose-lose. You
probably,
get
yeah.
you get caught, you get a fine. If you have the tax, you're probably still going to get fined.
But honestly, I would not be surprised if the felony is worse than what they would do if they like caught you because of the requesting a stamp, you know? Because a felony can lead to a lot of issues later in life, like not being able to get certain jobs, not being able to own a firearm, right?
Yeah, depending
So,
on the state.
yeah. So it to me, it's a little crazy that they made this a felony.
Unless they don't take felonies as seriously in Alabama.
Maybe not. It's hard to say. But I think Alabama is one of the states with probably some of the worst correctional facilities, if I remember correctly. So maybe not. Either way, we don't know enough about it to have too much of an opinion. I just thought it was kind of interesting because I had never heard of that before, so I looked it up.
Yeah, so don't do drugs. Don't take drugs from
Don't
random
sell them
basketball players. Don't sell them.
and make sure to get a stamp if you are.
Yeah,
We're
get a
not saying
stamp
you
if you are.
should, but please get a stamp.
Yeah, do it
It's the
legally
right
if
thing
you
to do
are.
it.
Yeah, so don't do drugs unless they're free. Or,
What?
no, don't do drugs. So we only have one bit of college football news this week, and it's that the Big Ten has sent a letter to the NCAA to insist that NCAA impose a moratorium on investigations and infractions proceedings related to tampering. The letter lays out the need to comprehensively reevaluate rules which were designed for a world that no longer exists risks. So the letter contends that the current framework cannot be credibly or e- equitably enforced. It, it points to how untenable a system with one portal window is with no contact allowed prior. So,
A lot of vocab words for you.
yeah. So they're trying to. I think what they're trying to get at is this was a rule pre NIL. And I think they're just trying to get the rules kind of, I don't know, kind of changed to where you can talk to players before the portal opens. I'm not really sure what they're trying to get at here.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't hear anything about this.
So I guess we'll see if any more news comes out about this to clarify those vocab words.
I assume that they have a legitimate reason for this, and my hope is that it will make a change happen that needs to happen, and it will make the college football game better than it was before.
Or make it better than what it is now.
Well, now is before,
Oh,
eventually.
yeah, eventually. I thought you meant like the
Man,
before
man,
the
we're getting
NIL.
philosophical. I think we should make a t-shirt. We need a t-shirt with our faces on it that says what did I say? The now is the before.
The before is
Before is now,
the before is
eventually.
now, but later.
Sure, whatever. Anyways, it's so philosophical, I forgot it after I said it. All right, now we're gonna move on to the NFL segment. So last week we had a ton of trades and everything. So that kind of continues to this week, but not as much. The Cowboys are trading Osa Odigizuvua to the 49ers in exchange for a 2026 third round. They're also trading Solomon Thomas and a seventh round pick to the Titans in exchange for another seventh round pick.
The Jets are trading Justin Fields to the Chiefs for a 2027 sixth-round pick, arguably the biggest trade of the week.
And I did see that they are planning to use him within their offense, apparently. I was talking to Nick about this, and I said, if you make some design QB runs with him, that could actually be useful to get Patrick Mahomes some resting time and stuff. My issue though is when you put him in, it's very readable by the defense probably what he's going to do. Maybe occasionally you can have him throw to catch him off guard, but I don't know. With that being said, I heard some people theorizing that he might convert to a running back or like a passing running back. Not that he passes, a catching running back.
I did see a video on somebody talking about this, and they said ideally he would be there to fill in the games where they're up. So Patrick Mahomes has resting time, like you said, but they also said in case Patrick Mahomes' injury has complications or something, and he can be there until Mahomes comes back. So probably the deepest quarterback room in the NFL right now. Because if you don't know, this is the only quarterback room with players that received MVP votes.
What?
Justin Fields got one MVP
But
vote,
you
and
are
like
you talking specifically bench players? Because doesn't a QB room apply to the starters?
where more than one quarterback has an MVP.
Okay. I was like, what? Like, are we just forgetting every quarterback starter? Almost like, okay. No, I know what you mean though. The Dolphins are trading Jalen Waddle and a 2026 fourth round pick to the Broncos for a first round pick, third round pick, and a fourth round pick in this year's draft.
I think this is a good pickup for the Broncos for Bo Nix. So this is another big trade this week, but I don't know. Maybe even bigger than the Justin Fields trade. But the Panthers. This happened today on Wednesday. The Panthers are trading Andy Dalton to the Eagles for a 2027 seventh round pick. I forgot he was still in the league.
I've seen him sitting on the bench a couple times. It seems like they kind of use him to teach the young quarterback some stuff. Obviously, the Eagles need a backup quarterback because Jalen Hurts is still hurt, right?
I don't know. I haven't looked into it. He's managing a knee injury.
All right, now we're going to move on to some signings. The Seahawks are extending Brady Russell to a 2-year contract, and they also signed Emmanuel Wilson on a 1-year, $2.1 million max value deal.
The Vikings signed Kyler Murray on a 1 year, $1.3 million contract. So makes you wonder if they're going to replace J.J. McCarthy with Kyler Murray.
It seems likely,
Have they already moved
but
on?
you have to wonder, replacing him or not, is Kyler Murray a solution to anything? I guess as a backup he could be useful, but if they are truly moving on, it makes no sense to me.
Well, no matter what happens, I mean, Kyler Murray for 1.3 mil is not a bad deal at all.
No,
If he pans out, that's a hell
eh,
of a or a heck of a or a good deal for the. Sorry, PG.
yeah, and the Bills are signing CJ Gardner Johnson to a 1-year, $6 million max value deal.
And the Bengals are signing Josh Johnson to a 1 year deal. This is his third time with the Bengals and holds the record for the most teams played on, which is 14. And he has switched teams more than 20 times. And they also signed Jonathan Allen. He doesn't switch teams as often, but he's on a 2 year deal with a 28 mil max value contract.
What position is Josh?
He's a quarterback.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Quarterbacks get traded pretty often if they're um, not starters. The Chargers are signing Trey Lance to a 1 year, $6.75 million max value contract.
The Eagles extended Dallas Goddard to a 1 year, 7 mil deal, and they also signed today, or maybe it was yesterday, Hollywood Brown to a 1 year, $6.5 million max value contract.
Panthers are signing A.J. Dillon on a 1 year deal.
The Giants signed Darnell Mooney to a 1 year, 10 mil max value contract.
And the Packers signed Rasheed Walker to a 1 year, $10 million max value contract.
The Colts signed Jonathan Owens on a 1 year deal. They also signed Cam Taylor Britt to a 1 year deal. And they signed undrafted free agent who played for Notre Dame as a forward, Carson Tout, and he's going to be a tight end. Tout has no football experience at the high school or college levels, and the standard undrafted free agent contract tends to be around 3 years in length, but they have not disclosed any information on the contract.
So, was he even like applying for the NFL? How did the
He's
scouts like know about this guy?
he said he wanted to try football out, and so the Colts were like, "All right, we'll take you." He wanted to give football a try, even though he hasn't played football. So I guess we'll see how it works out, taking the
Fair
guy who's
enough.
never played football.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be cool to see if that pans out. My guess is he probably won't even get much playing time, if any. But you
I
never know.
saw they were gonna probably utilize him as a blocker more than a receiver. So I mean, it kind of makes sense being a big guy. He's like 6'8".
Yeah, and he
So
probably has practice boxing out in the paint.
hmm
The Steelers are signing Jaquan Brisker to a 1 year, $5.5 million prove it deal, which means,
which means he's got to prove himself.
or he doesn't get the money.
Well, they're signing him to a lower value contract for him to prove himself instead of
Okay.
like a multi-year contract. So the 49ers signed Dre Greenlaw. They're bringing him back to San Francisco for a 1 year, 7.5 mil contract. They also signed Christian Kirk to a 1 year, 6 mil max value contract. So adding, so they're adding to their depth over there in San Francisco in their wide receiver room.
And the Giants have extended Evan Neal to a 1 year, $1.21 million prove it deal.
And the Commanders signed Rashad White on a 1 year, 4 mil max value deal, and signed Charles Emenhiwu on a 1 year, 7 mil contract.
And the Texans signed Wyatt Teller to a 2 year, $23 million max value contract.
We have one release this week on the Titans, L'Jarius Need, and Tennessee will actually save $11.4 million against the cap for releasing him.
I don't know who he is, but I like his name.
L'Jarius.
Sneed. LS. LJS.
Yeah, almost like I Show Speed. Not quite.
Anyways. Alright, we got a little bit more news for the NFL. Washington state lawmakers has passed Washington's first income tax. The so-called millionaire tax will impose a 9.9% tax on annual income of more than $1 million beginning in 2028. Governor Bob Ferguson has already pledged to sign the bill, though it could still be a challenge. The Seahawks have been one of 8 NFL teams that play in states with no income tax, along with the Raiders, Texans, Cowboys, Titans, Buccaneers, Dolphins, and Jaguars. one thing to note, or one thing that I'm noticing about these teams is that these are teams that don't really win the Super Bowl much in recent years.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they're in the South.
Oh,
They're
that,
also in the South.
but my thinking is perhaps that's a sign that having income tax is not going to affect the team as much as people say, you know?
Right, because the Buccaneers are the only team in recent history to win a Super Bowl out of
Yeah.
those eight.
So that, to me at least, implies that there's not much correlation there, but it's hard to say for sure. Because there is a lot of teams that have income tax that also don't do well.
One agent said that states with no income tax or lower rates are a bonus, but that it doesn't tend to be a deciding factor for players, and that the ones in position to command big money in free agency will still opt for the big deals. For example, the Rams and the 49ers, they're a state with high income tax, but they still bring in those big name players.
But I do wonder if they request an extra million or something to kind of counter the tax.
I don't know. It kind of sucks for the teams though, because then they're out that extra money. They're out that 9.9% that just goes to taxes, whereas they could be using that 9.9% for another player.
Yeah. On the counter, though, I feel like if you're making that much money, I feel like it maybe would benefit society if you were taxed over someone that's like raising 5 kids with like no money.
Well, I saw what they're doing with this money is they're like using it to fund schools and teachers and stuff. So it's not going to like a bad cause. It's going towards a good cause.
Right. So, I mean, there is pros and cons to it. Obviously, no one likes taxes, but it is required for a country to run. Here's something kind of concerning if you're a Miami Dolphins fan. The Miami Dolphins this season alone have over $175 million in dead money. This means money that they have to pay to players that they either released, traded, or maybe even retired, right?
Yeah,
I don't know if any of these players did retire though.
I don't believe so.
But some we're not going to go through them all, but some big names are Tua Tagovailoa, who has 50 million plus in dead money that has to be paid to him. Tyreek Hill has 28.2 million. Jalen Waddle has 26.3 million. Jalen Ramsey has 20.9, and the list goes on and on. You have to kind of wonder what their thinking is. Is this just a stat that doesn't really matter because they're in full rebuild mode? Maybe. Time will tell. But it is a little concerning, I would say, nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if they're relying on their like young players and getting players from the draft, and then I mean they just spent 60 mil on Malik Willis, so they're probably somewhat in rebuild mode, but also trying to do a little bit of with what money they have.
And if I remember correctly, they're one of the teams that tend to be in like the top three for the organization grades, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
So I do wonder if they're maybe a little bit more generous with their money than other teams that could come back to haunt them when those said players get released.
Yeah, with also being in Miami, they probably have quite a bit of money over there anyway.
You know, speaking of which, I saw the Seahawks had like an A or B in everything except an F on field condition. Apparently, the players really hate the turf there, even more than normal turf. But I had never ever heard a single complaint about our stadium.
Other than
Did
the fact that it's loud.
right, but do you remember ever seeing anything about the turf conditions there?
No.
So that's odd to me that out of all the things that we struggle with, that's the one. But as we talked about a few weeks ago, they're getting rid of those grades, right? Like they're not allowing it anymore.
I think so.
So I don't know.
So I looked it up. It says Seattle has challenging, often bad natural turf conditions for residential lawns. Oh, never mind. I just saw the yes.
Residential lawns. I'm sure that it raining so much might actually affect it though.
Yes, the Seattle Seahawks home field, Lumen Field, has received poor ratings for its turf conditions in 2026. The team's artificial turf was graded an F by players, ranking it among the worst. While the stadium will host the FIFA World Cup in 2026 on temporary natural grass, its current schedule to return to synthetic turf is still going to be in the NFL season.
Well, and I'm pretty sure the Seattle Sounders, their soccer team, play on that field.
Yeah, it says right here. It says with them sharing, managing the surface for both sports has been a long-standing challenge.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that's partially why. But I do know that in general, players tend to rank turf fields lower anyways. But when I saw that, I was really shocked because I'm pretty sure without it, we would have averaged out to be probably the best team in the league. Because all our other grades were great.
So now, in the NBA segment, we wanted to start out with some history. So Shea Gilgeous-Alexander broke Wilt Chamberlain's record with 127 consecutive games scoring at least 20 points, which I believe went up to 128 when he scored 20 points the other night. I don't believe they've played since then. I believe it's still at 128. So that's a pretty impressive feat. I know we talked about it last week that he tied it, or he was close to it, or something.
I think I think a lot of people consider this kind of a weird feat. I don't think people realize, like, they see 20 points and they think, well, I've seen people score 35 plus. But again, this is an average. And from what I've heard from NBA players, this is a much harder streak to keep alive than I think people realize. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I believe the NBA average is like 20, but there's still really big name stars like LeBron, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry that have failed to meet that mark. So it's really impressive for one person to pass Wilt, who was basically a paint dominant center who was able to get those 20-point games. Um, I did see though in last year's playoffs, this doesn't include playoffs because he had like a 17-point game against the Nuggets last year.
I also saw that, but I saw a lot of people pointing out that no record counts in the playoffs. So if we're gonna hold Shea specifically to that standard, then we have to apply it to everybody. So it's not really fair to use that against him when we're not using it against other players. That's my thinking, and that's what I
Right,
saw a
because
lot
I
of.
believe LeBron's double digit streak ended in like the 2013 playoffs or something.
Yeah. So I that's what I saw a lot of people actually saying is that like you can hate Shea all you want, but we shouldn't hold him to that standard when we don't do it to anybody else. Because it would affect people like LeBron, probably even Russell Westbrook maybe in some way. I don't know. I'm sure he has some sort of streak. And speaking of Russell Westbrook, he passed Mark Jackson and Steve Nash to crack the top five on the NBA's all-time career assist list. He now has more than 10,335, which is what Steve Nash had. So that's pretty well deserved.
It's kind of weird to think that he's only top five considering he was averaging a triple double for multiple seasons.
Yeah, but when it comes to assists, when we look at the top five leaderboard, it tends to be people that have more than 10 assists per game. And I'm pretty sure Russ had multiple years where he only had like maybe 9 or 11 at most. So these are going up against people that had 15 at some times and probably played for a long time.
And we have a piece of history that you probably don't want to be a part of. Uh, Jabari Smith Jr. is the first player in NBA history to record 0% field goal percentage on 8 field goal attempts with 5 plus turnovers and 40 plus minutes in a single game. So he's on the wrong side of history this week, but congratulations to him for becoming the first player.
Bit of an ESPN stat, but it is worth pointing out nonetheless because that's a rough game. I don't know much about him, so I don't know if he like what he usually averages if he even plays at all. I don't know. Is he a starter?
I believe so. I don't really keep up with the Rockets, but I believe Jabari Smith is a starter.
Well, in other news, Bronny James has joined the 50-40-90 club in the G League. He's playing for the South Bay Lakers, who are 11 and 0 when he plays. He's averaging 15.5 points per game, 3.5 assists point game, 2.9 rebounds per game, on 54.5% field goal percentage, 42.6% three-point percentage, and 90% free throw percentage. It is in the G League, but that's good signs, nonetheless, that he's improving.
Yeah, I mean I like that he improved, but I don't think he's built for the NBA quite yet, if ever. But it's good to see that he's able to make something work down in the G League.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
Speaking of the G League, Mac McClung moved into third all time for total scoring for a player in the G League, and this includes the tip-off tournament, regular season, and playoffs. So um, he has 5,101 points as of the other day, and the only two players above him are Vander Blue with 5,160 points and Ronaldo Major with 5,299 points.
I know that he's played the majority of his career in the G League, but I'm kind of shocked that there hasn't been some guy that has played in the G League for 10 plus years that has set a huge record in this category. I mean, I understand if you do too well, you're going to get called up to the NBA or maybe even go overseas. But I would think there's got to be someone that's just good enough to score a lot and have a long career in the G League that isn't quite good enough to make the NBA. I don't know. Does this surprise you as well?
A little bit. I mean, the G League hasn't been around as long as the NBA.
2001.
Yeah. And I looked it up because I didn't know if the stats transferred, but they did when they rebranded to the G League. So my original assessment was going to say, well, the G League hasn't been around as long, so they would, this ultimately makes sense. But they transferred all the D League stats over to the G League. I don't know if many people remember that. I know probably a lot of younger people don't remember the D League, but they rebranded to the G League. But
They went up a couple letters.
the only reason I know that is because I went to a Mad Ants game when I was playing basketball when I was younger, and it was called the D League back then. And anyway, uh, yeah, I don't know. I guess if you're good, you get called up, so it kind of makes sense. If you're bad, you obviously ain't scoring points.
Yeah.
So
Maybe though it just goes to show that Mac McClung is just one of those players that has not really been given a shot in the NBA, even though he arguably should. I think if he gets traded to the right team that actually was willing to utilize him, I think he could be very valuable. I think the Warriors actually would be a great team for him because the Warriors tend to put a lot of trust in kind of random role players compared to other teams, I would say. Wouldn't you say?
yeah, I mean, looking at the Warriors now, they've got a lot of random players that you don't
I mean, even
hear
in the
of.
2022 championship, Jordan Poole was
Yeah,
coming off the bench. Gary Payton Jr. was kind of an unknown player, but he was playing good defense. So I don't know. Speaking of Gary Payton, I heard Gary Payton wants to possibly go to the Supersonics if they get brought back.
yeah, I saw that. He wants to play for his dad's team.
And I think part of the reason is he did grow up in that area a bit because his dad played there. So that's it's sad if you're a Warriors fan. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. It's also good for him. In other news, something that I came across that I kind of didn't see any announcement or anything about is that the NBA had canceled an Atlanta Hawks strip club promotion after a player Luke Cornett voiced concerns over the event. Luke Cornett made a statement. I don't know if it was in an interview or online, but he said the NBA should desire to protect and esteem women, and that we should promote an atmosphere that is protective and respectful of daughters, wives, sisters, mothers, and partners. The celebration of a strip club is not conduct aligned with that vision. Uh, Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, later came out and said, we have heard significant concerns from a broad array of league stakeholders, including fans, partners, and employees, and he believes canceling the promotion is the right decision for the broader NBA community. This really shocked me. I cannot believe this almost happened.
Yeah, I saw that controversy kind of arose about a month ago about the Magic City Monday thing, and I mean, I'm happy it went through because you never want to. I mean, it was kind of a bad idea on the Hawks' part because that's almost getting rid of your other audience because I know a lot of women watch basketball regardless of um, age or you know
A lot of women, but also a lot of kids, and also a lot of men
yeah
that would not appreciate
approve.
this. So it's really just mind-boggling to me. I understand that that sort of thing is popular in the South, especially Atlanta, right? That's the reason we see things like Hennessy, uh, brand deals and stuff like that, right? But this is taking it a bit too far. I kind of wish I haven't heard much about it since. I don't know if anything happened, but I wish the NBA would find them or fire whoever was in charge of this decision because this is kind of a crazy thing that never should have happened.
The Clippers also became the first team in NBA history to move above 500 after falling at least 15 games below 500 in the same season. So they started the season around December, mid December, 6 and 21 at the number 14 spot in the West. And currently, let me look because that's an old picture. Currently, they are 34 and 34. But at the time that this took place, it was they were above 500,
Yeah,
but they are
and they were
500
the eighth
now.
seed at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah, and they're the eighth seed.
So that's really impressive. I mean, I saw so many people saying that this team had so much potential, and some people actually still believed that they would make the playoffs, and I guess they ended up being right. Well, for now. Uh,
Yeah, still plenty of time left. So the other day, the NBA released that they will hold a vote at the Board of Governors meetings from March 24th to the 25th to explore adding expansion teams exclusively in Las Vegas and Seattle, with the two franchises targeted for the 28-29 season. So there's momentum for stakeholders to approve surveying. What industry executives project will be bids in the 7 to 10 million billion range for each team. A growing number of owners are believed to support expansion because of the long term revenue growth for the league from the Las Vegas and Seattle markets, but some owners remain hesitant on selling some of their shares and having their league equity go from 1 out of 30 to 1 out of 32 and want to see the final valuations of the bid plus the individual franchise fees before deciding whether to expand now or in a few years.
I am curious how much going up to more spots in equity matters depending how much the teams bring in revenue for the NBA.
I have no idea, but with them bringing in more money, it could be better in the long run,
Yeah.
especially with Seattle returning. Does
I
Seattle get all their history back, and they'll probably go back to being the Sonics?
Now I did hear some people are wondering about the Seattle thing because of the recent addition to the state tax that we talked about earlier. I believe Las Vegas does not have a tax like this. So this could be something that could impact it. I think Seattle's almost a guarantee at this point. It's just a matter of when. If not at this meeting, then some sort of future meeting. What do you think the Las Vegas team is going to be called?
I don't know, but I've seen reports a while back that LeBron wants to take part in ownership.
I think they should do the Las Vegas Blackjacks. No, that's terrible.
Uh, the Las Vegas Aces. No, I'm just kidding. That's a WNBA team. I don't know. Las Vegas Kings. I could see that.
Yeah, but we already have a Kings in the league.
Oh yeah, that's true. I forgot about Sacramento. Um,
I
I don't
think
know. Las Vegas Jacks, Blackjacks sounds good to
honestly,
me.
if they go away from the obvious gambling stuff, they could do something really fun and unique, like how the Raptors are just randomly a dinosaur for some reason.
I could see them going with Las Vegas Spades.
Maybe. I could also see them doing like the Las Vegas Galaxy or sand worms.
Sandbar. Yeah,
I
they're
don't.
gonna be the Las Vegas roulette wheels.
They're gonna get a Dune sponsorship. Anyways, maybe a fun special segment is we could design a Las Vegas team with a logo and everything that we draw ourselves.
Do a court and everything, even though I don't have that capability of figuring that out.
Well, you can go to 2K.
That's true. But then I have
Anyways,
to import designs, and that's a lot of hassle. We have one injury this week. A little bit of news about it too. So Giannis has been diagnosed with a left knee hyperextension and bone bruise, and is said to be reevaluated in 1 week. The Bucks actually want Giannis to sit out the remainder of the season as the team's playoff chances dwindle. They're currently sitting in the 11th place with 6.5 games behind the Hornets, which are in 10th place. But Giannis said that he is refusing the team's request and wants to play again. So kind of adding to Giannis's beef with the Bucks.
yeah, there's been so much beef build up in the last couple of years. I'm so shocked that he hasn't left. I know that his character makes him probably extremely loyal, maybe even to the point when maybe even to the point where he won't get out of situations that he should get out of. I don't know. But definitely something to watch. It seems almost inevitable at this point that he's going to leave within the next year or so. I think his contract ends in a year or two. I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of sucks for him because I don't see the Bucks uh, standing on his wishes if he does demand a trade in the offseason.
I mean, maybe they don't want to get fined for tanking, but I don't know. And we have two signings this week. The Boston Celtics are signing two-way Max Shulga on a 2-year contract, and the Sacramento Kings are signing Killian Hayes to a 2-year deal after two 10-day contracts. Killian Hayes is pretty good, isn't he?
He used to be. I don't know if he's fallen off or not. I haven't really watched a ton of NBA. I didn't watch a ton of NBA last year, and I haven't really seen much this year of him, so I don't remember.
Could be a steal, though. Probably got him pretty cheap. All right, now we're going to move on to the miscellaneous segment. So, something that came out, I think it was today, right?
Yeah.
Is that if you don't know, the WNBA has finally come to an agreement to a salary, I guess, increase. They weren't on like lockout, were they?
No, it's in the off season right now, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, but they were requesting some salary changes for a long time, but it really ramped up this offseason, and the increases finally happened. So The salary cap last season was $1.5 million, and this season it's $7 million. The average salary last season was 120,000, while this season the average will be 600,000. The supermax last season was 249,000, and this season will be 1.4 million. And the league minimum was $66,000, while the league minimum this year will be 300,000. I've heard some people raise concerns over this because there is talks that the WNBA has been losing money for years, and part of that money goes, or part of that debt gets paid by the NBA. Um, I don't know if that's true. Like, I'm, but I understand why people are celebrating this because they obviously should get paid like they're professionals. But I just wonder, I just am concerned with where this money's coming from is all. Because ultimately, I want to see the league succeed for a long time, and I don't think spending money that they don't have is a way that will make the league last a long time. Even if the NBA pays for it and they're willing to do that, I feel like at a certain point they might just say, yeah, actually, we're not going to pay anymore. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Honestly, it's good for them that they're getting paid more, but like you said, it's coming out of the NBA's pocket when they don't make money, which is kind of unfair for the NBA and their players. But they are professionals at the end of the day, and so I mean it's the NBA's choice to keep open that league. So
Yeah.
they got to make a living too.
Yeah, I mean, time will tell if somehow becomes an issue. I would really hate to see the league shut down. I don't think that will happen. But my hope is now that they've increased some of the money, that they can just focus on making, I guess, advertising and everything better, that hopefully the league can grow. I think they're in a tough spot though, because from what I've seen, a lot of people don't want to get into it because there's so much drama between players. But then again, maybe that's just the media portraying it that way. I don't know.
Yeah, and one thing to note that I found is that this is the sixth shoot, I don't remember what that stands for. Com- Combined bargaining agreement, something like that. It's the sixth CBA, something bargaining agreement in league history, with 1999, 2003, 2008, 2014, and 2020. So there haven't really been too many changes, but a decent amount to keep up with times, I guess.
Yeah. Well, time will tell the impacts of this. I am excited to see Caitlin Clark get back in action. Hopefully she can recover from her injury fully and not have any effects of that or get re-injured.
Yeah, and I might actually be starting to watch the WNBA because Riley mentioned something about wanting to watch women's basketball.
It's not bad. I used to watch it a bit last maybe 2 years ago. I think it was whatever was Caitlin's rookie season. Was that last year?
I think it was the year before. I don't
Okay.
remember.
Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago.
Time flies.
And it was pretty good. The only thing I didn't like about it, like I said, was the drama outside of the game. And I think some of that is the media. I think some of the players actually respect each other. But man, there's so much petty drama that doesn't need to be there. Things like them not shaking hands or high-fiving, and then people read into it too much, and it creates this whole chain of interviews that don't need to happen. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think that that's part of the reason it gets less views than it should. Because it is it's a fun league to watch, and you get some hype moments just like the NBA.
So now we're going to move on to some World Baseball Classic news. So if you haven't been paying much attention, Venezuela played against the U.S., which we'll get to in a little bit. But what I wanted to point out was Vinny Pascatino actually recorded the first ever 3 home run game in the WBC history. I believe he played for the Dominican Republic. But nonetheless, 3 home runs in a game is pretty impressive.
Um, so in the championship, Venezuela ended up beating the US 3 to 2. At one point, the US was down 2-0, and then I forget who it was. They hit a
Bryce
game.
Harper.
Yeah, Bryce Harper. He hit a game tying game home run, I think it was.
Yeah, there was a guy on base and he hit the home run to tie the game.
Yeah. So a little unfortunate for the US, but I wanted to point out the US's results in every single World Baseball Classic. If you didn't know, the first ever World Baseball Classic started in 2006, so it's fairly new. So in 2006, the US finished eighth place. They got eliminated in the second round. So not a great run, but not like absolutely terrible. But to be fair, with it being the US, they didn't probably not meet expectations nonetheless. 2009, they ended up going out in the semifinals in fourth place, where they lost to Japan. Uh, so that showed that they were starting to improve. And then 2013, they got eliminated in the second round. They finished seventh place. But I heard that it was a pretty tough pool and they were pretty injury prone. So maybe not the end of the world. 2017, they bounced back and actually won it, beating Puerto Rico 8 to 0. And then in 2023, they got second place, losing to Japan in the final. That was a legendary game between Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout. So honestly, not that bad of a finish. And then this year they finished second place as well, losing 3 to 2 to Venezuela. So it's been a little rough for the US. A little bit of heartbreak here or there, but it seems like they're on the up now.
Arguably, they should have lost to the Dominican Republic, but they were able to win that as well. And Aaron Judge played like crap. Yeah, so they probably would have did a little better if Aaron Judge wasn't like 2 for 11 at bats, and he struck out like 3 times, I believe.
And it's funny because I just saw people talking about how Aaron Judge is by far a better player than Shohei Ohtani. They were saying that Shohei Ohtani is not the generational talent that people make him out to be. I don't know, man. I don't think Aaron Judge is pitching and hitting.
Yeah, he's definitely not hitting in the WBC.
You're right. He's not pitching or hitting. Not currently. So I don't know. Sometime we're gonna have to make a list, maybe as a special segment where we talk about the like greatest overall athletes of all time. I think Shohei has a case for being like top 10 or whatever. I think Michael Phelps has a case. Um, my concern with that list is it would be really hard to like know about athletes that are like super dominant that we just have never heard of in like cycling or something, you know?
Yeah, like compare athletes between different sports.
So it would have to be purely based on the athletes that we know of. Because I'm sure there's some like skier out there that's like absolutely insane. Well,
Yeah,
I
my
yeah.
boy Johan Hasblock Clabo.
But I mean outside of Claybo, some guy from like the 70s or something.
So our last bit of news today for you guys. If you don't follow Formula One, they were set to race in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia in April, but they are at risk of being canceled due to the ongoing war in Iran. F1 was due to race in Bahrain on April 12th and in Saudi Arabia on April 19th. The cancellations will mean F1 will have 4 straight weeks between the Japanese Grand Prix on March 29th and the Miami Grand Prix on May 3rd without a race. They will also drop the season's calendar from 24 to 22 events, and there will be no replacement races arranged because there will be a difficulty with there being such short notice. The Saudis were pushing for the race to go ahead as normal, but F1 did not want to risk a situation where an escalated where the situation escalated closer to the race. The where the situation escalated closer to the time of the race taking place, with the freight and the personnel already being in the country. Which I did read about that. I think it was last year. There was like bombs or something going off while they were there doing their warm up races, and like they were doing their
Well,
warm ups and
even
stuff on the
even
track.
this year, Iran has been shooting missiles at almost every nearby country. Kind of like a going down with the ship sort of last ditch effort to, hey, if I'm gonna go down, you guys are too. So I
Yeah,
totally understand the concern here.
yeah. I don't remember why stuff was going down last year, because I know the WWE wasn't going to go over to Saudi either, but they ended up going. But like I said, F1 was already there. That's the only reason why they continued to race in Saudi. So
Yeah, I mean, there's always a lot of concerns and controversy in those regions. I remember the World Cup in Qatar a few years back was pretty controversial because some of the working conditions, like some of the workers died building the stadium, I heard. I think it was like in the hundreds, possibly.
jeez.
So, yeah.
And one thing I forgot to mention is there's three other races in that region which might encounter knock-on effects later in the year should the conflict still be going on.
That could make this year's winner someone really obscure, though, because if you don't know what races are actually happening, then some of the like final results could be heavily impacted depending on what tracks you're good at.
Yeah, so we could have a weird champion. Oh, by the way, Lewis Hamilton has a Grammy or something like that. I forget, an Oscar or a Grammy,
What?
one of the two. For the F1 movie, he has an Oscar.
Um, well, yeah, why would it be a Grammy?
I I couldn't remember what it was, and then when I said Grammy, I remembered Oscar.
Well, when you said Oscar, I remembered Oscar the Grouch.
He's a good guy too.
He's
I
a good
personally
guy?
spoke. Yeah, I personally spoke with him yesterday, um, in a phone call.
About what?
Just about uh, McDonald's trash waste and how he's pretty fed up with it.
Typical Tuesday afternoon conversations.
Yeah, I mean he appreciated the extra food, but he said we need to be feeding Americans.
Is he like making a presidential campaign or something?
Honestly, you should start a podcast.
We're have to try to see if we can get Oscar the Grouch on the next episode. If
Yeah,
you wanna if you wanna email I guess Disney probably owns it. Yeah.
yeah, we'll get a hold of Disney and see if Oscar the Grouch can come on the next episode.
Yeah, sure.
Well, that's going to be it for us on this episode. Just a couple reminders. Don't forget to leave recommendations. We want to make this podcast better for everybody, and we want to make it enjoyable and want everybody to come back. Um, so, yeah, we appreciate you listening to this point, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.